Roblox Obbies. Being one of the most popular genres on Roblox, the player counts are huge on games such as Tower of Hell and Mega Fun Obby. Over the years, obbies have become a household name among Roblox players. But when looking deeper into obbying, you'd realize they're not easy at all. JToH and Tiered Obbies are the main difficult subsections of obbying. JToH being concentration and focus based long towers, whereas Tiered Obbies being short and difficult pure skill obbies. If you're active and invested in these communities, you might have seen the JToH Iceberg made by 60mm, which includes some of the most unknown JToH events, people, and generally just things. But in over 6 to 7 years of Tiered Obbies existing, no one has ever made a full and in-depth iceberg video on them. So welcome to the Tiered Obby Iceberg. If you've been living under a rock and don't know what icebergs are, just to sum it up, it's an image that depicts the top of the iceberg that includes some of the known stuff about the specific topic, and going down the iceberg, the entries become more and more obscure. So with that being said, let's get into the video. The entries in this category are widely known to almost every obbyist on Roblox. As I mentioned previously, JToH, also known as Juke's Towers of Hell, is a popular obbying game where players have to climb towers that have 10 floors with difficult obbies inside of them. There are also different types of towers, such as steeples which have 5 to 6 floors, citadels that have 11 to 25 floors, and obelisks that have 30 floors. Vipsim's Tiered Obbies are tiered obbies created by an obby builder called Vipsim. Vipsim is one of, if not the most popular tiered obby builders on Roblox, making obbies such as Marathon, Room of Terrifying, and Misplaced in Time. These obbies are widely known across the obbying community, and actually get a lot of people introduced to difficult obbying as a whole, therefore being above the iceberg. Similarly to Vipsim's obbies, Slad is also a very popular obby builder, known for creating obbies such as the Beans series, as well as being the main person who popularized tiered obbies to more people, basically making the tiered obby community what it is today. Some of the best and most relevant obbyists in the tiered obby and JToH communities. Currently, some popular and rising obbyists are Boomsasok, Cyclex, and Block, and some older obbyists you might know include Con 2005, Obbyboy, and Zorloth1. These obbyists gain a ton of popularity due to their skill or just simply relevance in the obbying community for many reasons. This entry refers to obby practice places that assist the player with a no-clip tool to be able to repeatedly attempt specific jumps of an obby. Although, games such as Practice Please, which contains hundreds of obbies you can practice in a single game, and Practice, that allows you to practice thousands of precise stud-for-stud jumps, exist as well. Obby Legion 2 was a group created by a Roblox player called Regionality, trying to bring back the original Obby Legion 1, which will be talked about later in this video. This revival didn't end up working though, due to only 4 obbies ending up getting released after its launch. The entrance obby of this group is now privated, although the rest of the obbies, Daydream Valley, Oceanic Depths, and Monochromatic, of which all are made by an obby builder called MacLads, are still available. Nowadays, the group has become a placeholder for Arnor's and Vipsim's difficulty chart obbies. This entry is self-explanatory. Simply trending obbies. Obbies that have gained popularity quite fast, but usually end up falling off. An example is Tower of Maltel, a tier 14 obby created by Dawid1077, which was quite popular a while back. This obby was popularized when ObbyBoy posted a completion video on his channel, which made people interested in the obby and made it garner over 16,000 visits. Obby glitches are obbying tricks that are not supposed to be possible, such as clipping through walls, flinging yourself, and jumping higher than usual. Some of these glitches include the dance clip, lag high jump, and lodge. I actually have a full video on Roblox obby glitches if you're interested. The jank obby style is basically the polar opposite of the obbies you usually see when playing Roblox. The jank style features really weird jumps and bricks oriented in unnatural positions to make them really confusing. But at the same time, they're extremely creative, and it's very tough to make a good jank obby for obby builders. Marcus Terry was a Roblox account created on June 7th, 2008 by an unknown person. Somewhere between 2008 and 2018, the account was password guessed and later sold to Ludovinci, a former JToH staff member, who used it as an alt account to sword fight. At some point, Ludo also gave Rocco Rocks You access to the account, and he created a game called Indeterminate on it. In 2021, the Marcus Terry account was used by Wathek and Akira to fake multiple completions of obbies ranging from tier 16 to tier 19. The way they did this is by using a program called Replayability, made by Tubers93. It allowed them to record movements and replay them at a later time. Akira was the one that recorded the movements, since she had the raw skill to do so, and Wathek would be the one replaying them in obby's itemless places, with multiple people around to arouse as little suspicion as possible. The entries on this layer get slightly more niche, but if you've been in the Tiered Obby community for a bit, you should know what these mean. This refers to an incident in early 2020, where popular Geometry Dash player and hobbyist, Cyclically, was exposed for exploiting in obbies and faking his runs. The way he was caught was regionality. The creator of Tower of Glory had made an anti-cheat for the game, so that exploiters couldn't fake runs. Khan2005, who was in contact with Cyclically at the time, convinced him to re-beat Tower of Glory, since he had quote-unquote done it so many times by now. Cyclically then proceeded to join the game and attempted to higher his jump power to 51 and his walk speed to 16.5, which would have given him a massive advantage in the obby and most likely allowed him to beat it easily, if he wasn't caught by the anti-cheat. He was immediately kicked from the game and suspicion fell on him. He blamed it on the anti-cheat being faulty and rescripted an old fly command script to make it seem like he wasn't trying to cheat, and instead just wanting to use fly to practice the obby. Afterwards, Cyclically would just quit the obbying community for good, or at least stop making public videos on obbies. The only known tiered obby to have a complex puzzle in it is Enigmatic Void, made by Ice and Salt. Interestingly, anyone who leaks the solution to the puzzle gets banned from the Ice and Salt Discord server, and every time it's leaked, the creator, Ice and Salt, changes it. Kitty's Towers of Hell was created in June of 2016, having multiple revamps and updates including rings, difficulties, events, more towers, and a bigger community and game throughout the years preceding its release to the public. The game has changed hands and owners, today being known as Juke's Towers of Hell. Obby Legion 1 was the first successful group in the Tiered Obby community. It featured progression in ranks after completing specific obbies, and the hardest one being known as the final test, which is still one of the most popular and enjoyed tiered obbies on Roblox. This group was also created by Regionality, who is known for basically starting tiered obbies as a whole. Popular obbyist Akira used to have a YouTube channel where she uploaded hacked completions of Tiered Obbies, and the thumbnails for the completions included erotic imagery of Akira's Roblox avatar. Although all these completions are now either deleted or privated, and the only way to find them is through reposts. This entry is quite self-explanatory. Khan 2005 is one of the greatest obbyists on Roblox, having mastered Tower of Glory and beat obbies such as Homage, which were thought to be extremely difficult at the time. This entry simply means that Khan quit obbies. OG obbyists are obbyists that were playing Tiered Obbies during the Obby Legion 1 era, and possibly before. Most people from this time have completely quit and disappeared from the obbying community as a whole, although a notable obbyist that is still active is JToH. This refers to obbyists who primarily make meme content. The most famous example of a meme obbyist is Danyar Gaming. Tower of Substantial Quietus is a nil tower made by 60MMM and Seal Oslusky for the game Juke's Towers of Hell, though it never ended up getting in-game. This tower is notable for being the very first Horrific Plus tower being made before Citadel of Void, and being one of the very first Impossible or Showcase obbies. The entries below the surface are becoming quite niche. If you're a new-gen obbyist, it's unlikely you'll know any of these. The now famous tiered system was originally created by Pop-Up614. He drew inspiration from one of Regionality's games. In the game, you can see a list of tiers and their respective difficulties. This obby is also one of the oldest tiered obbies ever made, being made back in October 2017. This began the tier system ranging from tier 1 to tier 20 that we all know and love today, although tiers going up to 25 have been popularized in later years, with obbies such as Umhult von Leiden and the Trusses being created. The Maca Accords was a Roblox group created by the builder who made the Obby Legion 2 obbies, Macalads. This group was used for him to upload his obbies that weren't featured in Obby Legion 2 or any other major project. The Thus drama started when Slad and Blizzia, two well-known obbyists, made a practice place of tiered obbies. But these obby models were acquired through Synapse, which is a Roblox hacking software. Blizzia then realized Slad was just using him to synapse the obbies. In response, in Slad's Discord server named Obby Community, Blizzia gave every single member moderator powers and nuked the server. Obby Collectors refers to the epidemic of people stealing famous obby models and using the models in whatever they wanted, even to fake completions. Many of these obbies could be found in the Roblox Studio toolbox, making them available for everyone, such as the popular Snacks obby. Pillars is an old tier 16 obby made by Pop-Up614 in early 2019, which was verified by Eterna. Pillars obbies later became sort of a genre of tiered obbies, with tons of obbies being named after pillars ever since the original creation. Tower of Glory is an extremely popular tiered obby created by Regionality, being a JToH tower-like obby but only having one difficult floor. The Tower of Glory World Record War entry refers to the time between early to mid 2020, when there was a huge competition between several obbyists to get the world record on this tier 16 obby. Easily the most prominent name in this event was Khan 2005, that later ended this by getting a 39-second world record. back in October of 2020. Since then, it has been beaten, but that was past the speedrunning era, less than a year ago. Staying on the topic of Tower of Glory, Tower of Glory 2 drama refers to the time in between the creation of Tower of Glory 2 and the completion of it by Moisey, also known as ETM Wrote, in March 2023. Before Moisey's completion, there were 4 unconfirmed victors. These were XNZar, Cyclically, Akira, and Zorloth1. The first 3 unconfirmed completions were thought to be suspicious by the community, and thus, when Zorloth1 ended up being the 4th, suspicion fell on him too. A few hobbyists tried to expose the completion by Zorloth1, but they couldn't find anything suspicious. Sometime after, when the Top Obbies Discord server was created, there was a rule for completions where you could beat the obby in your own game if you had enough proof of the completion and your run was not suspicious. Shortly after, there was a drama between Akira and Zorloth1 over an unexplained rule where you had to beat Tower of Glory 1 before completing Tower of Glory 2, and also that you couldn't use corner clipping on a certain jump. Eventually, the obby was deemed so controversial that the rule allowing completions in your own game was removed completely, and every game that was similar to Tower of Glory 2 was banned from making completions in. Hacker New XD was the first skilled obbyist to attempt an obby called Elegance, created by Regionality, now a tier 17 obby. This was in a time where it was thought to be tier 20 plus and humanly impossible. They are also rumored to have beaten Anatawa Horibimasu at some point, which is now a tier 17 as well. Though, it is completely possible that an exploiter could have TP'd them to the win pad. Not a lot of people have witnessed or been active when these entries happened, or just entries that are not very known at all. The League was an obbying group, composed of some of the greatest hobbyists of their time. They had a YouTube channel, where they would frequently post completions of some of the hardest obbies at the time, baffling the community. This channel posted a completion of a tier 17 obby called Honor on November 19th, 2020. This would have been the top 1 obby if it weren't faked. Just Kawaki was a Twitter account made by Akira, who posted Rule 34 of her Roblox avatar. For those of you unaware what Rule 34 is, it's basically explicit images of cartoon, anime, or video game characters. The account was later deleted, but the images were re-uploaded by an unknown person to an account named Not Just Kawaki. Obby Gamers Unite was a Discord server owned by PopUp614, dedicated to obbying, mainly the Obby Legion obbies. At some point, the server was active, but it fell into disarray quite quickly. When the owner stopped caring about the server as much, it was renamed to Undistanced Gamers Unite as a joke. The server now has long since been abandoned. This refers to an incident on August 29, 2019, where PopUp614 apparently tried to kill off Tiered Obbies by deleting documents relating to them and trying to replace the tiered system with Obby Dans, which will be mentioned later in the video. They sent this announcement message in the Obby Gamers Unite Discord server. Matveika was the first person to beat Honor, with Akira being the second. Both Matveika and Akira used corner clip on a jump, so their runs were deemed unlegit. And thus, the third victor, Best Here Goes Nothing, was classified as the first person to beat Honor, with Matveika's completion falling out of relevancy because of not being noticed as the first completion. This run is quite unknown. Tribute was the abandoned official sequel to Honor, made by Cyclically. It was rumored to be a tier 18 obby, and at some point, Matveyka had attempted the first few jumps, although it didn't end up gaining any relevance, with only being able to garner less than 300 visits over the past 3 years. This entry refers to a clip taken by Khan 2005 in the tier 17 obby Elegant, in which a user named Squeeze Rap is seen joining the game and nearly beating the obby. Keep in mind, this was at a time when this obby was thought to be basically impossible. The topics covered at this level are quite obscure and unknown to the larger part of the obbying community. Desolating Dejection is most likely a regionality alt account, which was given to or accessed by cyclically at one point. This is the same Roblox account that uploaded the oldest confirmed tiered obby, Elite Obby, in August 2016. Although this account still remains kind of a mystery. Room of Pillars is most likely an obby made by Cyclically. Not much is known about it, but assuming and keeping in mind obbies such as Room of Honor, that is a single JToH floor made into an obby similar to Honor, we could guess that Room of Pillars was a JToH floor with Pillars gameplay. But as I said, we could only guess, since this obby is now lost to time. This is an alternate account of Khan 2005 that he used to re-beat Tower of Glory in 1 minute. This possibly kickstarted the Tower of Glory world record war, and made it what we know it as today. This refers to a tiered obby created by Pop-Up614 in mid-2019. The obby is called simply No, and was considered tier 19. The obby is still available, but no one has ever beaten it. So who knows, maybe it is actually the first tier 19 obby. Obby Dans were the very short-lived replacement for the tiered obby system. They were created by Pop-Up, the same person who created the tiered system, as an attempt to kill the tiered obby community for unknown reasons. Pillars 2 refers to an obby made by Pop-Up614, said to be the sequel to Pillars, an old tier 16 obby. The name of the obby is this, but is generally referred to as Pillars 2. Probably because no one knows how to say it. This entry refers to Eterna, a previously well-known obbyist that played back in 2019, switching over to the popular rhythm game called Osu and becoming one of the greatest players, currently being ranked 13th in the world and first in their country of Canada. At one point, in early 2022, Eterna reached top 2 in the world. The entries at this stage are either extremely old, to the point where there's not much people that know about them. This refers to a glitch supposedly invented by regionality, which allow you to skip whole sections of obbies, which House Terry also possibly knew. It is not confirmed whether it was real or just a troll. Regionality was and is very skilled at obbies, and has been making and playing them since 2012 or 2013. Some people just don't understand how incredibly good she was. Goatist was a Roblox account that was very good at obbies during the rise of tiered obbies, if not the very best. During this time, hobbyists such as Khan 2005 and Akira were obbying. Goatist, as an obbyist, has fallen out of popularity, and very little people know about this account. But at this point, it is 100% confirmed to be one of Regionality's alt accounts. Redacted is an obby made by Regionality, which is one of, if not the most secretive and mysterious obbies in the Tiered Obby community. Some old obbyists know about this obby, but avoid telling details about it. The infamous obby, Stairway to Heaven, which is one of the biggest obby projects on Roblox, was originally inspired by Redacted. It was said to be around tier 16 difficulty, and harder than Tower of Glory. The only way to access it was to beat the heightened sense of tranquility trials. This will be covered later in the video. This refers to fan groups of Obby Legion 1, such as Obby Gamers and Obby Fortress. These groups make their own obbies, and use them in the same way the original Obby Legion 1 did. These groups would create entrance obbies, and then just keep building, although they never last longer than a month, due to dying out after a lack of obbies being made. There's some confirmed lore or story behind the obbies made by popular Regionality alt account Zephyrist, with tons of obbies having weird clues that should be used to figure out the lore. There have been many guesses and assumptions, but nothing led to a true answer. This phenomenon is known as a finger lock. Finger lock usually happens near the end of an obby, and is usually caused by nerves or cold temperatures in the surrounding area. When this happens, your fingers almost seem to lock in place, and you can't press any keys or move your mouse correctly, and you most likely end up failing the obby. This can also happen after excessively playing obbies, hours on end. This refers to a situation back in mid-2018, where an alternate account of Regionality, known as Zephyrist, on which she made the Obby Legion group and all its games, was hacked by an unknown person and used as a way to scam people. This account was terminated shortly after, but thankfully the games made on the account remained untouched. Invisible cuts refers to cuts in certain obby completions, made to look like actual ones. But, in reality, they were different videos spliced together to make it seem like the person really did complete the obby. One of the obbyists that has been confirmed to have done this multiple times is Akira, a famous obbyist that was exposed for cheating in 2021. This cheating method can be also called splicing, as it is known in speedrunning communities. The topics covered here are mostly unknown. Only specific groups of people know about these. This refers to an obbyist named Fierce, who was a talented obby builder and obbyist in 2015. This was at a time where JToH and Tiered Obbies basically didn't exist whatsoever. Fierce had insane skill for the time, and knew many complex techniques for 2015. Nowadays, being known as one of the hardest popular tiered obbies, Site 1 is the sequel to the tier 14 obby made by Khan 2005, called Site 0, which is possibly the most popular tier 14 obby. Staying on the topic of Site 1 though, Site 1 was actually not a tier 19 obby upon release. In fact, it was barely harder than Site 0. The way Site 1 became so difficult was when drama started. Hobbyist House Terry was making good progress on it and was possibly going to beat it, but Con 2005 and Yizen decided to buff it to piss him off. The Heightened Sense of Tranquility trials were a series of obby trials hosted sometime in mid-2020, and they were attended by many hobbyists, such as Rocco Rocks You and Zorloth1. The game is privated as of today, but from Zorloth's description of it, it had 5 trials, one of them being a wall hop trial. The trials were hosted by The First Tribute, which is most likely an alt account of the hobbyist Hard32. The reward for beating the trials was models of Tiered Obbies, and access to the actual game, Heightened Sense of Tranquility, also known as Redacted. The first version of popular Tier 15 Obby Homage was likely made all the way back in 2017, and it was inspired by a game called Hard Obby, which was made by Billabong. The obby contained many fling jumps as well as wall phasing. This obby is thought to be the hardest obby on Roblox between the years of 2010 and 2014. The game features many different types of obstacles, including lasers, thin platforms, long jumps, etc., as well as depicting an ancient temple theme. When we covered OG hobbyists, I talked about some of the hobbyists that joined the community in around 2018, but this entry refers to some of the earliest people to ever make and play tiered obbies, or difficult obbies in general. Some examples include Regionality, Hard32, Flamin' Blade, Fierce, and others. Though at this time, no communities existed, people tended to play in small friend groups or simply alone. Foolsy, also known as Squid Magic, is one of the most popular obbying YouTubers on Roblox, with over 200,000 subscribers. What differentiated him from other Tower of Hell hobbyists though, was that he was involved in difficult obbying communities as well, such as the Tiered Obby and JToH communities. This entry refers to a screenshot of him at the end of an impossible Tier 19 obby called No, made by PopOp614. As mentioned previously. Most likely, Foolsy was teleported either by a mod or a hacker to the end, where the screenshot was taken. This screenshot is unfortunately not available anymore, since in the Discord server Obby Gamers Unite, the channel where the screenshot was visible got locked. Extremely niche topics and entries are covered in this layer. It's extremely unlikely you'll know any of these. This entry refers to an obby called Redacted that was created in 2018 and up to this day is extremely secretive, and the people who know stuff about it don't reveal much. This states that this obby was only 0.0075% done. For example, if Redacted had 10 jumps at the time this was said, then the finished product would have an estimated 1,330 jumps. Although this message might have just not been true at all. This was an inside joke made by some people that claimed Aterna C did a 144,000 stud horizontal wall hop. In case you're not aware what a wall hop is, it's basically a complex trick that allows you to jump mid-air if you flick your camera right and there are two separate walls to flick on. Completing a 144,000 stud horizontal wall hop would be near impossible due to the time it would take and how much it would tire out your arm. But since this was an inside joke, it isn't true. This refers to some very talented hobbyists who use secret alternate accounts to beat extremely hard obbies to mainly troll people. The people that did this include Regionality, Con2005, and some others. Accounts that are similar to this are the Marcus Terry account, which would have stayed unknown if Watheck and Akira wouldn't have revealed that they were the people behind it. There are also some hobbyists known as shadow hobbyists that do not record completions but are known to be extremely skilled. An hobbyist named Liu06 is the most famous example, as he beats Seppala, a tier 17 obby, without recording it. It is also rumored that he verified a different tier 17 obby, but it has not been confirmed. I Don't Know Some Obby is a game made by House Terry in late 2019, which featured a tiered obby of the same name, having gameplay heavily inspired by the final test, mainly revolving around trusses and wraps. Nowadays, it is being used as a place where House Terry creates various obbies. One of Regionality's alt accounts, Zephyrist's older obbies, The Impossible, depicts Zephyrist's Roblox avatar hanging on a tree at the end of the obby. This very game is also one of the oldest tiered obbies ever made, being made in May 2017. This could be related to the lore in Zephyrist's obbies, as mentioned previously, but as of now, it's unknown. As I already covered, Room of Terrifying is an obby made by Vipsim that is made to be a single floor of a JToH tower, with very difficult jumps, therefore Room. Before the obby Room of Terrifying became its own tiered obby, it was in a JToH fan game called Glister's Mortifying Tower Lobby. The game never saw a public release, as Room of Terrifying was placed in the final area, which was heavily labeled as work in progress, and the game was likely cancelled before work could begin on it. The Room of Terrifying we know and love today isn't actually the original. This entry refers to the oldest version of the obby Room of Terrifying by Vipsim. It still exists, but is now privated on Obbyist's Rocco Rocks You account. This oldest version was most likely created sometime in between early 2019 to mid 2019. Jank Trials was an obby made by Akira, one of the best hobbyists on Roblox at the time. The game was made in 2020, which had only 3 jumps and a prize pool of 10,000 Robux for anyone who could beat it. The only problem was the jumps were tier 18 and near impossible. Zengor is supposedly an ancient hobbyist who was insanely skilled and top 1 at some point in 2013. This ended up being made up and not true, and actually one of Zorloth 1's alt accounts. On April 21st, 2019, a YouTube user going by this name posted a YouTube video called "Want a Hard Floor?" This video was made by an hobbyist showcasing a floor of the lore tower Chaotic Citadel, depicting some incredibly hard jumps. Before we cover Obby Royale 2, Obby Royale was an obbying game created by Regionality, when he was basically the only active builder of difficult obbies. Obby Royale came out after Obby Legion 1, and it used maps in a racing kind of way, similar to what games like Obby King are today. If you were to ask if an OG obbyist played Obby Royale, they would most likely say yes, since it was probably the only advanced yet fun obby on Roblox at the time. On the other hand, Obby Royale 2 was a cancelled sequel to Obby Royale that was supposed to be made, but it never happened. Vipsum, nowadays being the most popular tiered obby builder, not much of his past is really known, so this entry refers to exactly that. In early 2019, the obbyist Zorloth1 and Vipsum collaborated together in a JToH fan game, until drama broke out around Vipsum stealing obbies. The two stopped collaborating, and shortly after, Vipsum made an alt account called iMothboy, and by pure coincidence, Zorloth1 became friends with him, and started playtesting his obbies over the course of 4 months. Shortly after, iMothboy admitted that he was actually Vipsum, and the iMothboy account was abandoned. It was never confirmed whether Vipsum actually stole the obbies or not. This refers to the old physics of Roblox that was used in obbies before 2018. This type of physics has been recorded in various videos, but there are two that we know of. One is related to Fierce's obby video, and the other to Hard Obby, which is inspired by old homage. Only around 10 people have heard each one of these entries. These are extremely niche and almost completely lost. Regionality discovered and knew many Roblox glitches and techniques years ago that are still not known to most of the community today. This is really impressive, since regionality was mostly active in 2019, and before, possibly from 2013 to 2017. Some of these glitches have been patched with physics updates, and some still may be possible, waiting to be discovered. He Packs a Lot of Blood was a tweet made by an hobbyist named Teki Keki on Twitter, under the account The White City of X. The tweet depicted a snowy forest, which was a cropped version of a stock image. Some have thought this to be an obbying ARG that goes deeper. Others think it's just attention seeking in order to get on the iceberg. The same image in the tweet was also used in a SoundCloud track. There is also an audio made by the same person who made the tweet, named Kowaki Gets Slain by Khan 2005. I'll leave the interpretation up to you. The inventor of the jank style used in obbies was most likely regionality, or more specifically, regionality on the Desolating Dejection account. The origins of jank are quite unknown. The first obbies that used jank purposely are either now deleted or privated, or just haven't been found yet. Regionality is a legendary obbyist, known to many as the creator of Obby Legion and Homage, and known to very few as the pioneer and creator of modern obbying as a whole. One of the obbies she made, Homage, was originally made in 2017 and was inspired by a different obby called Hard Obby. This obby contained many insanely advanced glitches, such as wall phasing, wall flings, and others. The original version of Homage was inspired by this obby, and presumably contained those glitches. It is unknown if there were any victors of it or not. Regionality is also the owner or one of the owners of Desolating Dejection, Goatist, and Zephyrist. And after thoroughly searching through Desolating Dejection's and Goatist's favorite places, and finding many advanced obbies made before 2018, the Iceberg team came to the conclusion that regionality is most likely the first actual obbyist, and also the first person to discover various physics glitches and techniques we usually use in obbies today, such as lodges, truss flicks, wedge bounces, and many others. Dark Day is an ancient obby made by Gotist that has possibly been lost to time. The obby was said to be very difficult and is said to have been made in 2015 or 2016. The obby used techniques and glitches found by Regionality herself that she taught to her friends, mostly Esphers, and possibly including Hard32.